I want you to feel every part of what I'm about to say in an almost tangible way, as if we are now in a quiet place, isolated from the distractions that surround us, just you and me, in an atmosphere charged with expectation. There is no hurry. There are no limits to this experience. You can close your eyes if you wish, and imagine that we are face to face, looking into each other's eyes, feeling a deep conviction in the air. I observe your face, the way your eyes move without haste, the intensity of a desire that almost overflows in your gaze, and I perceive how much you long for answers, how much you want to enter a transformative encounter, a healing that comes directly from God. I don't want to be delicate in the way I express myself, because there is a fire inside me that cannot be contained. There are moments when silence is more powerful than any spoken word, but now our inner voices also cry out for liberation. I sense your thoughts and the way you sigh in front of a painful memory. I know there is a throbbing pain, something you may not reveal to everyone, but that consumes part of your spirit. Still, here we are, united by something that seems bigger than all our trouble, the certainty that the touch of the Holy Spirit can flood every forgotten corner of our being and renew everything that was once wounded. I feel that your heart burns for the impossible, something that medicine could not reach, that the words of others could not soothe. Sometimes you remain silent, because those around you no longer understand your silence. They don't see the almost invisible thread of hope that you still hold, nor how much you long for a supernatural intervention. In certain moments, loneliness throbs like an incessant beat, reminding you of promises that were not fulfilled. But inside you, there is a whisper that refuses to be silent, and that whisper says that God continues to be God, even when everything around seems dead. I don't want you to run from this feeling. Let the restlessness manifest itself fully. Feel the pulse of every memory. Acknowledge the wounds that have not yet healed. Let us walk through these shadows side by side, without fear, because right in front of us, there is a light so strong that I dare not describe it with precision. It cannot be defined. It is not limited by explanation. It simply is, and within it lies the power that reverses diagnoses, that destroys psychological chains, that rewrites the history of those who once thought they were condemned to a life without healing. There is something almost palpable in the air, something that makes me believe that this is your moment to experience the supernatural. When I look into your eyes, I see thirst, that yearning for a genuine manifestation, one that transcends polite conversation and religious protocol. I don't wish to be polite, because the greatness of this move does not need adornments. We are here to witness the impossible happening. Think of the moments when you felt fear, when words didn't come, when everything in you wanted to scream, but you held it back for fear of not being understood. Bring that to the surface now, without hiding or covering it up, and allow God's love to penetrate those places. It is precisely in the most vulnerable space that healing happens most intensely. The healing I speak of goes beyond the body. It's as if God enters your story and removes the deepest scar. He touches those hidden emotions, and you may feel a slight tremor, a shiver, a burning sensation that comes from within and moves out. Don't worry about labeling these feelings. Simply allow it to happen. God's actions do not fit into human labels. I don't want you to feel pressured to explain the inexplicable. Sometimes, silence is the best form of reverence. Kathryn Kuhlman used to convey this almost ethereal conviction that we are not before an abstract power, but before a living presence that moves through our thought, that probes our heart, and pours out balm where it hurts. I imagine your eyes filling with tears. These are not tears of sadness, but of redemption. Sometimes they escape control, and you might try to wipe them away quickly, feeling a flush on your face, but that's normal. This is not just a fleeting emotion. It is the sign of something real, something that transcends the barriers of logic. The power of God is like that. It floods with intensity, and when allowed, takes away the emotional rubble, leaving only the clarity of a faith that is renewed. It's not for you to worry about finding explanation. Be free to feel. The divine presence is not always noisy. There are moments of deep calm when the simple act of breathing seems to wrap every fiber of your being in an indescribable embrace. It's as if each beat of your heart echoes a silent cry of gratitude. I know that you long for that embrace that does not judge, for that voice that does not condemn, for the certainty that you can start over, even after so many broken promises and so many disappointments. God's grace is not based on your mistake, nor on your failed attempts to get it right. It simply flows, and the only thing He desires is your consent to act. If you say, "Yes, I want it," then He invades the impossible and makes everything new. There's no denying that there is an inner shock when we think about the greatness of the Creator, caring for our misery, our fears, our crossroads. But, as unsettling as it may be, this is the heart of the gospel. God revealing himself in human weakness, transforming what no one believed could be transformed. It's common to doubt, especially when what we've been facing for so long has already become part of our identity. Perhaps you have embraced this pain, as if it defines who you are. But listen carefully now. That does not define you. God knows your true essence, the one that was originally dreamed before all the disappointment. He sees your value, even when you feel despicable, without strength, without motivation to fight. There is a war being fought within you. Reason tells you that some events are irreversible, that certain wounds will never heal. But there is also the voice of faith, which whispers that what is impossible for us is not impossible for God. You feel deep inside that something divine is touching each wound, and this touch awakens a courage you didn't know you had. It is in this space, between doubt and courage, that the miracle takes shape. Don't try to understand or explain every detail. This is a moment between you and God, where barriers dissolve and your heart expands to receive what you have never experienced. I want you to take a deep breath now and feel the pulse of life in every breath. You are not alone. There is a presence that surrounds you, that watches over you with care, that collects every tear. He knows the anguish you can't describe. He understands the pain you don't know how to express. And even when your words disappear, he reads your silence. When you are at the limit, he draws near with tenderness, but also with the power of someone who can change everything in the blink of an eye. Don't try to hold back this longing. Let your cry be free. Shout from within if necessary, and let him reach you. Open the arms of your soul. Allow him to enter the places you've closed out of fear of being hurt even more. Your mind might struggle, wondering if this is real or just a daydream. I understand. I've been in that place of uncertainty, where it feels like we're on the edge of an abyss, not knowing if we have the strength to face what comes next. But, if I may encourage you, I would say, trust what you feel right now, that gentle certainty that something powerful is about to happen. Faith doesn't need conclusive proof or logical guarantees. Faith simply leaps into the unknown, believing that God is faithful to uphold every step. Allow yourself this leap. Allow yourself to break the chains of fear. Even if it seems crazy to those watching from the outside, inside you, a flame burns, saying that this is the way to freedom. When Kathryn Kuhlman spoke about healing, she demonstrated an almost uncontrollable passion. It was as if every particle of air was filled with expectation. It wasn't about theological formulations or well-crafted speeches. It was about the unwavering conviction that the same God who walked on this earth, touching lepers and raising the dead, is still alive and working in the same way. He has not changed. We are the ones who change, losing the simplicity of believing in the miracle. But at this moment, I feel that we are returning to the essence, as if we are standing before Jesus, ready to touch his garments, knowing that one touch is enough to change our story. Open your heart to this possibility. Don't be ashamed to desire to live the supernatural. Many people may ridicule your dream, saying that healing is something restricted, that miracles no longer happen. But while you're listening to me, something is happening, and I can see in your eyes that you're not willing to let this opportunity pass. You've been touched by something that words cannot fully describe. It's as if an inner warmth has taken over your chest, urging you to believe once more. I want you to allow yourself to believe. There is life in these silent moments. There is hope in this moment that will never be repeated. I know the days may have been difficult, that the routine has often hurt you mercilessly, that certain relationships have left scars so deep you almost gave up. But still, God has not given up on you. He sees the woman you are, with your fears and your strength, with your desires and your resignation, and he calls you to live something extraordinary, not as a prize for a few privileged ones, but as a reality that is within your reach if you simply say, yes, I accept. Don't demand guarantees. It is in the dark that we learn to see by faith. It is in the tears that we learn to feel divine comfort. I believe that in this exact moment, there is an invisible hand resting on your wound, whether physical or emotional. You may even feel a shiver running up your spine, or perhaps a soft warmth enveloping your body. Don't try to suppress these sensations. They are manifestations of the Holy Spirit, who sometimes acts subtly, sometimes intensely, but always with deep love. Healing is not a trick. It is not a performance. It is a real encounter between human frailty and God's infinite power. Where you feel weakest, there he shows himself strongest. Where you feel unworthy, he clothes you with grace. Pay attention to what your body says now. Perhaps there is a lightness appearing in places where there was once pain. Perhaps an uncommon peace is quieting your troubled mind. Don't demand explanations. Receive. Let this peace be absorbed by your bones, your bloodstream, your breath. You don't need to control the process, nor make sure everything is under command. Surrender. When we surrender, we discover that God already had every detail under his watchful eye. It is at this point of surrender that the miracle manifests with the most freedom, because we do not imprison it within our limited expectations. Yes, I know that talking about healing can touch old wounds, hopes that have been frustrated. Perhaps you remember someone who prayed and was not healed. Maybe there are questions that even the wisest people could not answer. But now, this is not about reasoning about past cases. It's about you. It is here, in this experience, that something genuine can happen. Each story is unique. Each moment has a purpose. And I believe that the purpose of this encounter is to make you experience something profoundly transformative. Right now, God is working in areas you haven't even mentioned. He is reading the pages of your heart that you yourself have set aside because they hurt too much to reopen. Do not be surprised if, by the end of this moment, a new strength arises in you. Perhaps you will not be able to contain your emotion. Perhaps you will feel like thanking, singing, kneeling, or simply remaining silent, feeling the presence that floods you. None of these reactions is more valid than the other. What matters is being sincere. Sincerity is the key to attracting the touch of heaven. When we open our hearts without pretense, God reveals himself in depth. And he is revealing himself now, like a gentle wind that removes the dry leaves of the soul, like oil that flows and heals old wounds. There is a power that operates beyond words, and I feel this power reverberating throughout your being. It's as if something within you knows that it is no longer possible to go back to what it was before, because you have experienced the sweetness of what is sacred. In the coming days, you may notice subtle differences in how you see the world. Perhaps you will feel relief or realize that certain pains no longer bother you. Perhaps you will see that what tormented you has lost its strength. Do not be surprised. It is real. It is God leaving a sign that he is taking care of everything that matters. And when uncertainty comes, remember this moment and revive the conviction that now fills your chest. I am speaking to you directly because I believe that healing should not be something impersonal. God sees you. He knows the uniqueness of your life, the story that shaped every trait of your personality, every scar. He does not compare you with anyone. He does not require you to fit into standards that were not made for you. He simply loves you as you are. But that love does not leave you stagnant. That love pushes you to grow, to rewrite chapters, to live fully. Healing is not only physical. It can be mental, emotional, spiritual. God wants to touch you in all dimensions so that nothing is left out of the reach of his miracle. If you feel weak, remember that faith does not require your own strength. It rests on God's strength. Even if your faith is small, he works. For it is not about how much you believe, but in whom you believe. God reveals his power when we surrender and admit that we desperately need him. Admit that now, without shame. Acknowledge the need, the fragility, and let him be your support. Sometimes it is on the ground of humiliation that the sweetest fruits bloom, because there we no longer pretend to be self-sufficient. I know that you may not want to appear weak in front of others, but there is no shame in crying in the presence of the one who created you. It is not shame, it is liberation. Crying does not diminish your strength. On the contrary, it is in this surrender that the chains of pride and unbelief are broken. When the tears fall, they wash the soul of many voices that told you there was no way out. Let them fall if that is the impulse you feel. You will not be judged. This is a moment between you and God, and nothing else matters. I feel that he is bringing your heart closer to his even now. There is no noise, no spectacle, only a deep and intimate encounter. Do you feel something like a gentle breeze, an inner warmth, a security you cannot explain? Perhaps part of you is scared because you didn't expect it to be this intense. But do not run away. Stay. Let him surround you in every part. Feel every fragile detail of your being embraced. Healing may manifest in the body, in the soul, or in both spheres. Each person receives different, but the result is always a sense of liberation. It is as if old weights fall from your shoulders, like chains breaking without making a sound. You do not need to rush to tell others now. Savor this moment. There are things that must first be lived in the silence of the heart before being shared. In your time, you will realize that there was a real and permanent change. Be patient with yourself. Sometimes the healing process comes in layers, removing one after another until you find yourself free from all oppression. The important thing is that you opened the door, allowed the light to enter, and where there is light, darkness cannot remain. Maybe you will ask me, but why would God choose me to experience this? There are so many people in the world, so much suffering, why me? The issue is not deserving, but grace. He does it because he loves you, because he has compassion for your pains, because he sees the woman you are and delights in transforming you from the inside out. And there is nothing more impactful than seeing the miracle blossom in the innermost parts of someone who was almost without hope. You are being visited by this miracle. It does not follow protocol. It does not respect boundaries. It arrives quietly, but with an intensity that no barrier can contain. When you look around, perhaps everything seems the same. The walls of your room haven't changed. The circumstances outside may still be challenging. But inside you, something has shifted. Something has come to life. That something is the certainty that God is still in control, that he hasn't given up, that he still moves in the most impossible details. Keep that certainty as a treasure. When doubt comes, remember what you felt in this moment. When pain tries to return, remember the touch you experience now. I am not promising you a life free from struggles, because that is not God's proposal. But I assure you that his presence makes all the difference. When he steps onto the scene, what once was a dead end can become a path of learning and redemption. And even if others do not understand, even if they doubt, you will know deep down that something has changed forever. It does not require human approval. It is between you and God. Now, even though we don't have a soundtrack, it is as if I hear soft, enveloping chords that accompany your breath. His presence is so real that it almost resembles a melody playing on another plane, reaching the most hidden parts of your soul. Stay like this, absorbing every note, every sigh. You do not need to prove anything to anyone. Just surrender and let this inner harmony spread. The Holy Spirit loves to find open heart, and he does not hold back when he finds one. He pours the infinite into the finite, pouring the power that heals and restores. Feel the freedom this moment provides you. You are no longer a prisoner of diagnoses or labels that others have placed on you. You are the beloved daughter of a Father who continues to act, who never tires of surprising. And this is not just for now. God's supernatural can accompany you in your daily life, in the simplest routine. He is not confined to great events. He is available in your sincerest prayer, in your quietest cry, in your repressed desperation. If you keep your heart sensitive, you will perceive that he speaks, moves, heals, comforts. Perhaps, as you finish hearing these words, you will feel an impulse to sing or simply speak with God in the deepest part of your being. Allow yourself. Speak to him as you would to someone very close. Don't use prepared formulas. Don't try to be perfect in your expression. Just be honest. If there is anger, disappointment, if there is shame, present it all. He is not scandalized. He welcomes. And in that dialogue, in that honest surrender, more healing happens. You will discover that you no longer need to run away. Every step you take toward him is met with an even greater manifestation of love. I know that you may question whether you truly deserve to experience this renewal, but it's not about deserving. It's about accepting the invitation. God doesn't impose, he invites, and he is inviting you to enter into deep waters. If you are willing to step in, go without fear. Even if you cannot see the bottom, trust that he holds you, guides you, and brings you back to the surface renewed. Often we are afraid of losing control, but it is by losing control that we gain the freedom to live the extraordinary. Can you notice how you are breathing now? Perhaps slower, perhaps deeper. This is a sign that something is settling inside you, as if each beat of your heart is proclaiming that God is sovereign over every detail. I don't want this feeling to be confined only to this moment. You can carry this reality forward. You can remember it when you're alone, when you wake up in the middle of the night in distress, or when pain threatens to visit again. Remember that, in a moment of faith, you opened your heart to the one who can do all things. Remember that you felt his tangible presence, that you heard your heart burning, that you never wanted to close yourself off from this love again. And he will continue to act, even as you go about your most everyday tasks. Do not limit his power to special meetings or rare events. He is the God of every moment. He can heal here and now. He can heal while you do the dishes, while you talk to a friend, while you drive or walk down the street. God doesn't need grand setting. He needs willing heart, and your heart is willing. I can see that in your eye, in the way you observe me, eager to continue feeling this presence. I tell you, keep going. Don't stop. Cultivate this communion in your daily life. Let him be part of your thought, your words, your tears, and your smile. If the day comes when you feel dry again, when you think the miracle has gone, remember that he doesn't leave. Sometimes we disconnect, but he remains. Just a new sincere search, a new surrender, and he will make himself present. Healing is not an isolated event. It is a process that extends throughout our existence. Every time you come up against a limit, God will call you to surpass it in his strength. And thus, progressively, you will discover new levels of freedom. There are no words to measure the happiness of seeing you touched by this divine reality. I feel almost like a silent witness, watching something sacred unfold before me. My desire is that you never forget how your heart was warmed here, how every part of your being cried out for more. There is no chain that resists God's love. There is no wound that cannot be treated. There is no lost dream that He cannot resurrect if it aligns with what He has for you. You are special, not by your own virtue, but because God chose you, loved you from the beginning, and continues to love you on the gray day. This love is not based on your actions, but on His essence, and that essence is unchanging, eternal. You can rest in this love. You can rest in the promises He has already declared over your life. You can nestle in His arms when the storm comes, and you can count on Him to strengthen and raise you. You don't need math. You don't need to pretend a non-existent strength. You can be real, authentic, transparent. Sometimes He will act in ways you didn't imagine. Perhaps it's not in your way or in your time, but He always acts with perfection. When it seems to take time, He is shaping something in you. When it happens quickly, He is surprising you with His generosity. Either way, the final result is always a greater good. Trust that He knows what He's doing. Trust even when it doesn't make sense. He sees the whole picture, and we only see fragment. When reason fails, remember what you felt just now. Remember the gentle touch you couldn't ignore. I don't want to end this moment with formality, because something so sacred does not require elaborate goodbyes, but I want you to keep within you the seed that was planted in this instant. That seed will sprout, it will grow, and it will become a flourishing tree of faith and courage. Take care of it. Water it with sincere prayer, with moments of worship, with readings that nourish your soul. Protect it from the negative voices that try to stifle the miracle. And when that tree bears fruit, share it. Be a channel of healing for others who, like you, desperately need an encounter with the transformative power of God. I look at you and see that something is different. I cannot explain in exact words, but there is a light in your eyes, a gentle certainty that your inner world will never be the same. If there was despair before, now there is hope. If there was a throbbing pain, now there is a feeling of warmth beginning to heal what hurt. There is no spectacle, no firework. There is a silent grace, deep and visceral. And this, my dear, is the presence of God. This is the mystery we cannot fully unravel, but which marks us forever. May you carry this mark, this fragrance of a miracle, wherever you go. And when you fear losing this state, remember that it's not a temporary state. It is a person, the Holy Spirit, dwelling in you. He didn't come for a quick visit. He came to stay. With each new day, you can deepen this communion, make more room for Him to act and guide your life. And thus, gradually, you will discover that healing was not just an event, but a path of spiritual growth and maturation. You will become more confident, more complete, and the world around you will notice this change, even if you don't preach anything explicitly. Your life will become the most eloquent testimony. Keep feeling, keep receiving. There is nothing I can say that is greater than what God is saying to your heart right now. My words are just a distant echo of the divine voice that calls you by name. He knows you, knows your story, understands your dilemmas, and loves you intensely anyway. Don't ask why, just receive. God's love doesn't need explanation. It is poured out on us like a torrent that nothing can stop. And, diving into this torrent, you will find what you've always sought: true healing, complete restoration, the deepest meaning of your existence. Now, breathe once more, feeling the light, feeling the new, feeling the peace that surrounds you. You are not alone. There may be silence around you, but inside of you, there is a presence that speaks louder than any external noise. It is the Spirit of God who comforts you, who embraces you, who lifts you up, and promises never to abandon you. I believe that from now on, you will have episodes of spontaneous joy, a happiness that arises without any apparent reason. It is simply the certainty that something greater dwells within you, that your journey has changed course. It doesn't matter how complicated your past was. The future doesn't have to be determined by it. In God, there is always a new beginning. Today can be the first day of a new phase, and it will be marked by the presence of the supernatural. Allow yourself to dream again. Allow yourself to plan. Even if it didn't work before, God's touch makes all things new, and you have access to that. You've always had it, but today you understand a little more and feel it more intensely. Keep this as a permanent reminder that when God acts, there are no limits. I leave you with this certainty engraved deep in your chest. You are loved. You are cared for. You are restored. This is not just a catchy phrase. It is a living truth that pulses in every cell of your body now. May every part of your being continue to surrender to the divine touch. May every thought of yours align with His purpose. And when someone asks about the different glow in your eyes, you will know that the answer goes beyond human explanation. It is God Himself, with His immeasurable grace and power, dwelling in you, healing your wounds, and inviting you to live the best He has to offer. You will never leave this experience the same, for God has marked your story.